343 is officially no longer a gaming studio, and this is not misinformation. The Halo subreddit is definitely coping with this one. What's up, world? It's here back in the video, and today I want to talk about 343 and the whole debacle of them being a game studio. I made a video the other day talking about how they're no longer a game studio, and they basically aren't. They work on the engine. They've always only worked on the engine. Now, if we can go back, let's go back to the original release of Halo Infinite, and let's look at some of the facts here. The game has been noted to be over 50%, and by some accounts, 80% outsourced. This is before any type of firings. This is before any of the stuff that's come out. Over almost 80% outsourced. If we go to these individual companies' websites and we look at exactly what they did with the game, Tomahawk works on the UI and UX, not 343. Spirisoft works on the maps and DLC, not 343. Certain Affinity has been working on the modes and DLC since Halo 4, I believe. They've been working, so anytime that 343's released a game, they've always had another company do the DLC. So any of the stuff from here on out is typically not 343 anyways. It's another company. Now 343 might be overseeing the development, and they might also be packaging and piecing that together. Additionally, when it comes to game development, there is actually something called a queue system. Basically, when someone creates code or is editing a game file or editing the actual game files themselves, and they're creating the stuff, they get pushed into a queue-based system, meaning that even if someone were to make an edit to the game itself, or make an edit to a specific weapon or change something, they have to then submit the code to a queue system, and then that queue system typically takes a few days depending on this game studio. Now with 343, it's known to take weeks, and the reason being is because 343 is not the one creating the code. It is actually these third-party studios who are writing all the code, doing all the work, and then submitting that code to 343 to then piece it together in that queue-based system. Again, this all aligns with the fact that they said the queue-based system that they're working with is taking over 3 to 4 weeks per submission, and that only happens when you outsource that heavily and you have the outsourcing companies write all and do all of the work. And again, I'll move on. So all your hatred for all these different individual things, remember when 343 came out and said, we have UI limitations? Yeah, because they paid a third-party company to make the entire UI and UX design. Again, you can go to a Tomahawk's website and literally see every single UX and UI asset that's ever been made for Halo Infinite, and they've made every single one. Again, not 343. This was a third-party studio named Tomahawk. And then last but not least, we have Skybox Labs. Skybox Labs has been doing Forge mode since, I believe, 4, and possibly even helping out earlier than that. I think they helped out with 4, and then with 5, they completely did the whole thing from scratch. So anything you see with all this recent stuff coming out about, hey, Forge mode is so great, Forge mode is really good, that's because the studio that has been paid and third-party outsourced to make it is actually pretty good at making Forge mode, and they've been doing it for a really long time. They've also been working, I think they even worked with Bungie back in the day with some of the stuff, but I know for a fact that they worked with Halo 4 and then Halo 5, they worked on that completely from scratch, so they've had a lot of experience making Forge mode, hence why they're so good at it. But all these other companies that are known for not really good games, a lot of them are known for mobile games. A lot of them are known for games that like literally never even came out, or when they did, no one ever heard of them. That is their track record, especially the Coalition is known for Gears of War 3, or Gears of War in general, and that's about it. They're not really known for anything else. They don't really do much else. Same with Spirisoft and Certain Affinity. They don't really do anything else. They don't really make any other games, and the games that they have made have been really like low-tier cash grabs and kind of either mobile, like some of them are mobile games, some of them are games that you, like I said, you've never even heard of before or even have mentioned in mainstream. So it is sad to see that people love this notion of spreading misinformation, spreading 343 still making the 343 didn't make the game to begin with. The only thing 343 did was make the engine, and then whatever material that they got from these third-party studios that, yes, they probably gave leadership direction to and told them specifically how to make the game or how to make this specific part or what they wanted for the UI, they didn't make it. They did not make it. Somebody else made it from a third-party studio, from a third-party organization, they might even be on contracted work, and that's why this is all very messy, because I guarantee you that a Tomahawk, for example, for the UI problems, right? The UI had such big problems in Halo, and that is mainly because the people that made it are from a Tomahawk, and a Tomahawk is probably hiring third-party contractors as well, and 343 is hiring third-party contractors, and so now we got a mix of contractors from two different companies, and they're fired after 18 months or whatever it is, and they're not there for the entire time. So then when another person steps in and they see the code, they might have to rewrite the entire thing, because it's like, this is illegible. This is not how you write this type of code, so we need to go back and rewrite the whole thing. That is where you get to the problems of today with the overall UI problems, the overall limitations, and the graphical errors, and the glitches, and the bugginess, and all this stuff combined in the minimal content, because again, every piece of this game was outsourced to a different company from a different location that also uses contracted workers. And then people want to sit up there and say 343 is still staying to make Halo. They never did. They never did. These are the people that are lining their pockets with that $500 million that they got from Microsoft. But I will keep it fair that $500 million is a rumor, although it has been said that it was at least $300 million confirmed. So even if it was $300 million, which was one of the most expensive games ever to make, clearly the money didn't go towards the developers. It went toward the upper management, which is mostly what 343 is. They are leadership decisions. They tell these companies how to make the game, and then the companies will make the game. And now we come to the head of it, where 343 fired a decent amount of people from their company, and overall, again, 343 doesn't make Halo. The majority of the game is outsourced. You cannot give credit to a company that doesn't make anything. They don't do anything. They don't make the store. They don't make the UI. They don't make the maps. They don't make the modes. This is why they were so lackluster at the beginning, because they were outsourced, completely outsourced. This is exactly why some of the Halo maps have stolen assets. You really think that 343 would pull in stolen assets and not some third-party studio that's not used to using like these big ordeals? A contractor at Spirasoft literally used stolen assets in several of the maps, and they've already found one of them with that spaceship that they had to call out, and then they had to credit the guy at the end and all that stuff, yada yada yada. They still stole the asset because it was made by a third-party studio who hired a third-party contractor to make the maps. Again, this is why the game was never made by 343. It really never was, and now for certain, it probably won't be made at all. So when people go up there and say, these YouTubers are spreading misinformation, 343's always made the game, they're making... No, they do not. They do not. Every portion of this game was outsourced. Again, with like... And I'll even give an example with a game like Borderlands 3, which I wasn't really a fan of, but this is just an example. Borderlands 3 outsourced a specific portion of the game. It was only the graffiti and the road signs. That's it. They just like and that makes sense. They outsourced like building graffiti, and they outsourced like the road signs that you see on the road. That's it. That's all they outsourced. Just those two things. So you could see the difference of just outsourcing a few road signs in graffiti to then outsourcing the UI, the maps, the modes, the Forge mode, the monetization scheme in store. What is there left for 343 to do except work on the engine and then piece together the stuff that they have in the queue for the code? That's it. That's how that works. It's been accounted for in multiple Glassdoor reviews. It's been accounted for in multiple leaks and rumors. Do you really think the PR manager for 343 is going to come out and say, yeah, guys, we're not making games anymore? Because they haven't anyways, but yeah, we're not going to make games now anymore. Now we're fully outsourced. No, they're not going to say that. But again, believe what you want, and if you don't want to believe the rumor or believe the things that are literally fact-based in evidence, which is if you go to these websites and you go to Spirasoft's website, you go to a certain Affinity website, you go to a Tomahawk's website, and you see all of these different things that they're doing, it's like, well, what is there left for 343? And you still come to the notion that they are making the game. I got nothing for you, man. It's not misinformation. It's just information that isn't painted in front of your face for you. You have to go look for it, and the reason being is because people like Microsoft and 343 don't want you to know that they're outsourcing their products to third-party developers who are then using third-party contractors and are known for only mobile games. That's why. That's exactly why. So if you don't want to believe it, it's up to you, but that is the notion. 343 is no longer, more than likely no longer, a game development studio. I'm probably just going to work on the engine, so they're a little bit, maybe have a few game devs there, and maybe they outsource the engine too, who knows. But yeah, I had to make this recap video, especially after I see all this stuff, all this actual misinformation on the Halo subreddit. people just coping, really. They don't understand that the game was already 80% outsourced, and that more than likely, when they just fired 1/3 of their staff, they probably don't have the staff to do anything at all now. And if anything, they're just piecing together stuff and working on the engine. Regardless, we'll move on from it, and that's a rant over. And until the next one, if you could like and subscribe if you liked the video and you enjoyed the content, I appreciate it. For the next one, deuce.